All right. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome again to Frequently Asked Questions Friday. We're supposed to have a lawyer here named Daniel Covich, and I guess he's running late, so we're going to just start without him. First place, I want to mention our scholarship, and that runs through December 1st. We're giving away scholarship money. First place is $2,500. Second place, $1,500. Third place is $1,000. All you have to do is go write an essay. I believe it's 600 words, and the essay is regarding technology and vehicles. And as most of y'all know, cars are getting smarter and smarter, and they're adding more things to them. And a lot of people argue that they're increasing distractions when you have navigation systems and radios and satellite radios and internet and all these things connected to your car. It's making cars more distracting. So our question is what technological changes can be added to a vehicle to make them more safe and to get rid of these distractions? But anyway, you can go read the exact title and description and all that. Go to herrmanherrman.com and click on or you can do /scholarships, or just go to herrmanherrman.com and look at the scholarships page and read more about it. And again, anybody can enter. We keep having people in California win and New York win, and the East Coast and West Coast, and we sure would like some local winners. So everybody, please go. You never know. Go and write the essay and submit it. You've got till December 1st, but don't wait till the last second. I can tell you, we get a whole lot of entries, the last week before the contest is over. I'm not going to say you have less of a chance of winning if you wait till the end, but your essay kind of gets lost with, a couple hundred others. If you submit one now and it's good, it's going to stick out in our mind. We're going to remember it. If yours comes in with 200 others, it's easy to get lost and for us to do about it. So personally, I think you have a better chance if you get it in early. And that way you don't miss the deadline either. Second, I want to remind everybody our summer giveaway on Facebook. We're giving away 4 tickets to Fiesta, Texas, plus a parking pass, plus a gas card to buy gas to go to Fiesta, Texas. So go on Facebook. You've got till July 12th, which I believe is next Thursday, and then we're cutting off all entries. So go on there and enter that right now. All right. Well, Daniel Covich showed up finally.
There you go.
So we'll get started with Daniel. We've only got about 9 minutes. So a couple things you wanted to talk about. One was the voter ID case. Which case is this?
Well, this is what was originally Vesey versus Perry, and Perry at the time was Governor Perry, Texas, and now it's morphed into Vesey versus Abbott because Abbott is our current governor. And Greg, this is the case that you and I talked about in 2011. I know that you are tuned in on voting, and I know that at Herrman Herrman you encourage people to vote however they want to vote. You give them time off. You encourage people to vote. You go out of your way to make it a fun and experience, but also a beautiful thing to do. And it's an amazing thing at Herrman Herrman to see the way you put efforts into voting. What's interesting is that Herrman Herrman is on the pleadings with the United States Supreme Court right now with this Vesey versus Abbott case. This is the original voter ID case that started in 2011 under Senate Bill 14. Senate Bill 14 is the one that was attempting to add more requirements for people to go vote. You had to show 2 forms of ID. It sounds like no big deal. It sounds simple enough. What's the problem? Well, the problem is you have a lot of people that don't necessarily have driver's licenses. You've got a lot of elderly people in particular. The demographics are elderly minorities in Texas that maybe have a gas bill. They don't have a Texas ID or Texas driver's license. They just don't have one, or it's expired, whatever it may be. And so the estimate of, we were hired as local counsel. This case was pending here in front of Federal Judge Ramos. And I was brought in, and we were brought in as local counsel on behalf of one of the many organizations that were part of that lawsuit. Our representation was for the NAACP in the 2011 case, and we won that case. That was an outright victory for us on voter suppression. Judge Ramos ruled in our favor, and in fact found, on top of the law being overbroad and overbearing, found intentional discrimination. That intentional discrimination finding by Judge Ramos on Senate Bill 14 is a big deal.
Let me just stop for a second. I thought that this was already heard by the Supreme Court, and they already said, no, it's fine. The state of Texas can require people to show up with ID.
Yes and no. What the apple and the orange here is the overbroadness and the oppressiveness of Senate Bill 14 in 2011, and then what actually the Supreme Court spoke to, which was Senate Bill 5, which was introduced in 2017. And what the Supreme Court said in the most recent decision, which is somewhat of a loss for us, not a victory for us, is that Senate Bill 5 addresses all the concerns that we had, or the plaintiffs had, with Senate Bill 14 in 2011. The Fifth Circuit reversed and rendered on the issue of intentional discrimination. That's what the state, and that's what really got the state going, is because if you have a finding of intentional discrimination through the appellate courts, then it triggers federal supervision of the elections. And that is what the state of Texas fought tooth and nail on appeal, was to fight and win back the finding of no intentional discrimination. That's the finding they got. It's narrowly interpreted to that. And then there was a general interpretation of Senate Bill 5, the 2017 bill, as kind of taking care of any of the other concerns.
If Senate 5 took care of any other concerns, then doesn't that solve Senate Bill 11 issues?
Senate Bill 14.
14.
It does and it doesn't. The most important thing we did is, in my opinion, is just to call it what it is, was we cut the head off the snake of Senate Bill 15. What came after that were lighter, kinder, gentler versions of the same thing. But looking at the trees and then trying to back up and see the forest, it is in a lot of ways could be seen as an overall tactic to get less people to vote. If you look at the redistricting that goes on, where they just keep moving the voting blocks around, if you look at as simple as the voting locations, the polling locations, where you go to vote changing on a constant basis, you have 70, 80-year-old people that have been going to the same elementary school for 30 years to vote, and they show up there and they can't vote there anymore.
Is that a local county-wide? Is that who's doing that here on the county level?
It is county-wide. It just so happens to be about every county in Texas.
But I mean, I guess would Kara Sands be the person here in Nueces County that is deciding where people get to vote?
Yes, and moving those locations around. In fairness to her, she also has pushed very hard to get voter awareness out there on the changed locations, but they've definitely changed. So she gets an A+ on getting the word out there, but she also gets an A+ for towing the party line on what basically
by moving locations around.
That's right.
So she gets an F really for that, is what you say that.
Yes.
Unless you're a member of that party that's trying to confuse people.
That's right. And to keep the vote down is important, and I think a lot of it ties into, and I'll say the word, it ties into the immigration fears in Texas. Really, immigration in a lot of ways, we know as trial lawyers, when a defense lawyer uses the word immigrant, that's code for outsider. That's what that's code for to a jury. And so to the average population, the use of the word immigrant means outsider. And the fear of all of these voter laws started because they feared an influx of immigration into Texas. That was the fear. They didn't want new voters from outside the United States.
And they think all these voters are going to vote for Democrats.
That's right. That's right. And that's how this all started. That's really what it started for. And that was the fear behind it. It hasn't happened. I think that we found in the 2011 federal case, there were 2 instances of in-person voter fraud in the last 150 years. The issue that has never been addressed or is now just finally getting addressed, which is, I think, a bigger issue, if there's any issue out there, is the mail-in ballots, which honestly Senate Bill 14, Senate Bill 5 don't even address. They don't address the larger issue of mail-in ballot. They only address in-person voting. Thus, we're back to the fear of the immigration influx in Texas.
Well, Donald Trump says 6 million people voted illegally in 2016. Is there any evidence to back that up?
I haven't seen it. You know, we have.
Has anybody seen it?
No, not that I'm aware of. No one shared it with me or you. I can tell you,
or any other credible organization.
No, I can tell you that Senate Bill 14, had it gone into effect, would have affected over 600,000 registered voters' ability to vote in the state of Texas. Had that law continued, so I think that Herrman Herrman and we did a good thing by beating that back. Considering that we had the sponsors of the bill, we had the senators take the stand, who actually wrote the bills in 2010, became law in 2011, who said that that they had only seen 2 cases of in-person voter fraud in 150 years. So millions and millions of taxpayer dollars was spent on Senate Bill 14 for what was two instances of voter fraud over 150 years.
Well, let's give a big shout out to federal judge Nova Gonzalez too for having the courage to hold this Senate Bill 5 unconstitutional.
Yeah, and 14, and you know, and I would never want to play poker with her. The whole time you're trying this case, you just cannot read her. There's no way to know how it's going to go, what the rulings are going to be. And if you read the ruling, which is public record, on Vesey versus Abbott, Vesey versus Perry, you can see the amount of logic and law and precedent and reason that went into her opinion. It is a well-versed opinion. She's a really, really fine legal scholar.
I know you want to talk about law, Tiger, but we really don't have time. We'll do that next time. I do want to mention one thing, though. I guess this is why it's important that people go out and vote for Beto O'Rourke for senator. Do we need some more Democratic senators in the United States Senate?
We need good senators, and Beto's one of them.
Okay.
You know, he really is. And the most important thing, no matter how you vote, is to vote. You know, you look at minorities, women, the right to vote is relatively new, and to just voluntarily give it away makes no sense. And guys like Mr. O'Rourke, whose hearts and minds are really in the right place, that's very important. There's a lot of Democrats, Republicans, either side that aren't necessarily they don't care about the injured, they don't care about the consumer, they don't necessarily care about the average person. And Beto O'Rourke cares about people, cares what happens to them, cares about families, cares about crime, and cares about immigration. I mean, but in the right way. We need 25 more just like him. We really do.
Speaking of immigrants, Ted Cruz is actually a Canadian, and I think his dad's from Cuba and his mom's from Canada. He's no friend of immigrants in the United States, is he?
He's not voted in any way that would be friendly for immigrants. I don't know if the policies that he wants pushed through, if his forefathers, if his relatives would have ever made it into this country legally, had the laws that he wants to pass have been laws when his grandparents tried to come into this country, and they would not have made it.
Well, he himself maybe wouldn't have made it.
Maybe not.
He's a Canadian citizen. That's where he was born.
How old is he around?
I'm not sure.
Should have passed that law 45 years ago. I'm sure he's got some good in him.
Anyway, all right. So, again, don't forget to vote in November. Let's get Ted Cruz out of office. Let's get Beto O'Rourke in there, and let's get Eric Holguin in there. And anyway, it's our time's up. Let's
share this cast with your friends. Pass it out.
There you go. And next week I will not be here. I will be out of town, so I will see you the following Friday after that. So until next time, say goodbye, Daniel.
Goodbye, Daniel.